Hello, fellow patriots, free thinkers, and anyone who still has a functioning brain cell after being bombarded by the left's nonstop propaganda. And welcome to Red Rights and You. Now, before we get into tonight's lineup, I just want to take a moment to say that after doing a lot of thinking and reading countless texts, I have had a change of heart. I can now see that the left is a reasonable, honest, intelligent, and well-intentioned group of people who just want what's best for America. April Fools! I almost couldn't get through that without laughing. The real joke, of course, is that people actually believe their nonsense. And speaking of jokes, we will talk about the latest scandal that they've cooked up, the Signal group text debacle. And then we're going to discuss the DOGE team interview with Brett Baer. Very interesting, where Elon Musk and his team, who are taking time away from their very lucrative jobs and businesses and are working overtime to clean up the government waste, they dared to tell the truth. Naturally, the left lost their collective minds because nothing triggers them more than efficiency and accountability. I mean, why would they want to fix a broken system when they can just keep funneling taxpayer money into their own pockets? But the biggest fools of all, power-hungry, unelective, activist federal judges who are treating the Constitution like it's a trans comic book. These robed tyrants have decided they can just override elected officials and hand down rulings based on whatever MSNBC told them to believe that morning. It's a complete joke, except nobody's laughing. And let's not forget the real puppet masters pulling the strings: George Soros, Bill Gates, and the rest of the deep-pocketed serpents who buy and sell politicians like Tesla stock. The media, of course, plays right along, staging protests, planting hit pieces, and doing everything in their power to take down the one man who refuses to be controlled, President Donald J. Trump, because nothing scares them more than a leader they can't buy. But we see through it all, folks, and that's why we're here tonight, exposing their lies, tearing apart their ridiculous narratives, and reminding them that we are not the fools they think we are. And to help me do it, I've got none other than the master elder statesman, the sultan of common sense, the poignant political pontificator himself, Mark Mosgrove. Mark, my friend, let's break down just how deep the less corruption goes, and feel free to hand out a few April Fool's awards along the way. How you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing good, but with a introduction like that, I better say something smart.
Well, I'm still waiting for to catch myself saying something smart, but it hasn't happened in how many videos?
Well, we keep practicing, right?
That's right. Well, I guess the best place to start would be the whole Signal scandal, with us giving away political secrets and inviting the most probably anti-Trump journalists on the face of the planet from the Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg. Of all the people, he's the one that was in charge of the, what was it, suckers and whatever with the military, and calling Trump a freedom killer, and he was against the Constitution, and he was going to be an authoritarian, and pretty much anything that you could do to degrade and belittle someone, he did with Trump. And of all the people in the world, guess who got invited into that group text? Now, my opinion, just really quick, and then I'll let you comment on it. Somebody had to get bought off to let this guy in. Somehow they got in. People don't realize how filthy dirty the left is, and Soros and all these people. There is nothing that they won't stoop to. No depth to undermine Trump and do whatever they can. So I feel it was probably a low-level staffer. They had to get to him. I don't know if they could hack in like that to that text. What do you think?
Well, I was on vacation. We went away for almost a week. And so I didn't really catch all the news during the week because, you're trying to have fun. But I heard that something had happened. Oh, it's big, is all I kept hearing. Oh, I was not in a position to really know what was going on at the time. I saw it a day or two after, and I started looking into it, and they were saying it was as bad as Watergate. Okay, they won't be talking about it probably in a couple weeks. We're talking about Watergate, and it's been 50-something years. So to put it on that par, I don't think it's really on the same level. I don't know exactly what happened with the chat thing, but why is that reporter even someone that can be added into the group?
It's so funny. He did an interview with NPR when he criticized Trump. That's kind of strange. Oh, suckers and losers. That's that whole military scandal that turned out to be a big hoax. I think one general who also hated Trump confirmed it.
All of these embarrassing things for Trump all seem to come from that same reporter.
Yeah. Yep. He's a racist.
Either he is some powerful person, or he's got an agenda, or he's just lucky and falls into these stories. Which of the three is it?
Yeah. Now, just imagine you want to control a party and there's no end to the amount of money that you can throw at things. And that's basically what they're doing. And we'll talk a little bit about the college campus protests with the Palestinians, the Tesla protests, professionally made signs. These people show up at a certain time, they leave at a certain time. I think it was Cruz out in Texas that said for 2 weeks straight, a group of protesters showed up outside his house at exactly 7 a.m. and they left every day at exactly 8 a.m. 1 hour exactly. They're paying these people to come out and do these things. They're paying people off, just like with this Signal scandal. Now, I'm sure they'll investigate and find out who it is, whether they're going to want to reveal who that low-level staffer was and come out and be transparent and say that they were punished. Maybe they will, or maybe it's a matter of, not wanting to embarrass themselves. And maybe they won't do it.
Well, my thinking about it is, and it also applies to DOGE as well, and what they're doing is Trump and his people are very active. And the more active you are and the more things you do, the more times you're going to make a mistake. The easiest thing to do is to do nothing, which we already experienced that. If you do nothing, let's just say you do nothing for 4 years, then it's hard to criticize. The only criticism is you should be doing more. But then you can always be like, yeah, but there's reasons why I'm not. So it's real easy to do nothing and not make a mistake. But it's like a basketball player who's throwing shots up. They're not hitting 1,000% of their shots. But you could be the player that just sits there and never throws the ball up, or you throw the ball up one time and you get it in and you're 1,000% shooter. But the great ones, LeBron or whoever, they're shooting all the time. And you know how many times LeBron has lost games, how many times LeBron has missed the final shot and everything like that. And the same thing goes with the administration. They're very active, and when you're active, you're probably going to make a mistake. So then you have to learn from it, move on. Now, as far as this thing goes, I've never heard, was a law broken? I don't know. Or was it just shouldn't have done it? It wasn't a classified channel, was it? See, I'm not even quite sure.
Yeah, it's funny. After I saw that whole thing, I have had Signal as an app on my phone for a long time, evidently. So I went in there. I may have even invited you. I invited some people in and just wanted to see how it works. But it's something that anybody can get. And evidently, it's hard to break, but it is a public chat. So obviously, they can penetrate it. Somebody can get in there. But I think they had used it because it was the most secure public forum they could use to do a group chat. Somebody figured it out. But I have to think, like everything else, it's political sabotage. from the left because they're desperate. They don't have the Congress, they don't have the Senate, they don't have the presidency. And that's why they're finding these federal judges who are known Trump haters to try and stop Trump from anything he's trying to do, whether it's DOGE initiatives, cuts, or wanting to turn a plane full of criminals back in the middle of the flight to El Salvador. And every single thing he does, I think their first goal is to stop and delay as much as they can until the primaries. But the bottom line is if they don't change their behavior and their way of thinking and how they present themselves, the primaries aren't going to matter because they're going to lose the primaries too. But I want to shift gears a little bit before we talk about these judges and talk about that Brett Baer interview with Elon Musk and the DOGE team. Everybody, I think, was expecting to see a bunch of 18-year-old kids in ratty T-shirts
Dressed
and
like
jeans.
this.
And yeah, there you go. There's your next gig, Mark.
This is my Doge outfit.
You're the next Dozier. But it's amazing. A lot of these guys made huge sacrifices. They have businesses. Some have several businesses
Yes.
to come in there and do this for their country. And it's something to see the difference in perspective from that side of the fence rather than the left thinking that, oh, they're trying to steal your money. They're taking your jobs. They're cutting Social Security. When one of the things that really made your ears perk up is Elon said, take this to the bank and you can hold me accountable for it. Once we expose all this fraud and waste with Social Security, you'll get more Social Security, not less. We won't steal anything. And I think that's what they're trying to accomplish. Like with that, the External Revenue Service and all those things, Americans are going to benefit from it financially. Once they cut the fat and get the waste out of there, there's at least going to be tax savings. Some of that money may even be coming back to the Americans. And, some will cut down the deficit. But they said it needs to be done. Elon says, and we've all heard this, the ship of America will sink if we don't get this deficit thing under control.
Yes, I agree that. Actually, backing up a second, they should have had that interview a long time ago. They should have had that interview right from the beginning, because by not having that interview right away, people speculated. So it all turned into a bunch of 18-year-olds are going in there and firing their parents and grandparents' generation willy-nilly, like they had control. And that's really not it at all. I mean, they might have the tech people doing whatever it is they do, but anybody, whether you like Elon Musk or dislike Elon Musk or like Trump or dislike Trump, it's important to watch that interview. The Brett Baer interview with the DOGE people and Elon Musk. I think it was on Thursday. You can YouTube it. I think it's probably 30-something minutes long if you YouTube it. Even if you hate Elon Musk, you should at least watch it and see what they say as far as what they're trying to do, why they're trying to do it, the motivations, what they're finding. Now, you can disagree, and that's fine, but the stuff that people say now, like, do you want Elon Musk to have your Social Security number? Well, I hate to break it to you. Elon Musk has no interest or desire to have your Social Security number. He has more money than he ever could need. A person who wants your Social Security number is someone who's up to no good, who's a fraudster and a scammer. And actually, if you watch that DOGE interview, you'll see that Social Security in particular is just ripe for people to steal Social Security numbers and that sort of thing. So many people have had their identity stolen. So many people have had Social Security numbers hijacked by fraudsters. Elon Musk is not going to do that. Elon Musk is going in there and identifying and saying that we want to make it more secure. They claim that 40% of all the calls to Social Security are fraudsters trying to get bank information changed from a legitimate Social Security recipient to a fraudster, whether it be overseas or domestically or in Russia or Nigeria or wherever. So who would not want that stopped? Who?
Well, and I mean, the only people I could think of is somebody that maybe is benefiting from taking money and laundering money, which, we all know that could never possibly
Well,
happen.
it's that, but it still goes down. It still comes back to they don't want Trump to succeed. If it helps America and Americans, they do not want Trump to succeed. And as far as I'm concerned, unless they come up with a better idea or actually a plan, then either get on board or shut up and let the adults run the show for a while.
Yeah, I think their plan was to do what has happened in the past, talk a big game, right? And the only person I've ever really seen, now Clinton, he cut a lot of jobs. It makes what Donald Trump's doing like nothing. I mean, he cut hundreds of thousands of jobs, right? And he did balance the budget. We weren't in the shape that we are now, but he
With the Republican Congress in 94, contract with America, 1994, it was a perfect match. You had a president who happened to be a Democrat, and you had a Congress that wanted to get these things done. And although during that period of time, they never really said they were working together, they were.
Right. And a lot of presidents have talked about it. Why can't they do this and go through Congress? But it's like you said before, presidents, especially on the Democrat side, and this has always been the case, they are infamous for making these big, huge campaign promises and then getting into office and sitting on their thumbs for 4 years and doing nothing. That's easy to do. No big deal. You're not judged because you're not expected to do it. To me, that is the most impressive thing. So, yeah, you go through all the rigmarole for 4 years. Everything gets tied up in Congress and the Senate, and nothing ends up happening. The waste just continues and continues. It goes on to the next administration and the next administration. So you have to get results, you have to do what they're doing now. You have to go out and you have to find what the problems are and fix them. You can say what you want about Trump. What are we, 60 days out? Maybe a little over 60 now. This promises made, promises kept thing is a completely new concept. You're lucky to have a politician get in there and make good on one campaign promise, let alone go in and right after they're elected, just systematically go through all of the things that the people mandated for you to do and just tackle this, tackle this, tackle this. The guy is tireless, man. It's unbelievable.
Well, you touched on the activist judges trying to basically run the country. That's a difficult one because we do have the three branches of the government, and there's supposed to be checks and balances, and the judicial does have the ability to review what the executive branch does. The only problem is Trump only has so much time to do what he wants to get done, and his people, and with these activist judges doing injunctions and everything like that, it's slowing it down, and that's what they want because they don't want Trump to succeed.
You're right.
How can someone who's a judge in D.C. or whatever counter what the president authorizes to do? Now, people would say, well, there's judicial review. They have a right to do that. But the problem is then it has to go to this court, then that court, and then to the Supreme Court. So I think the Supreme Court is going to have to act on these cases fast on, yep, that's right. Nope, that's not. Because otherwise, things aren't going to get done like need to be done. I agree with what Musk said in that interview. If it's not fixed, we're done. It was very alarming to hear about the amount of dysfunction with the files and the paperwork and the computer systems and all the different computer systems that don't talk to each other. And just for example, this pile of paper right here, this is 1 year's worth of medical bills since a year ago in November. And that's a lot of paper. It's not like, because I'm a sci-fi fan, it's not like Star Trek where you got like the Enterprise and they could just say, hello, computer, can you look up such and such? And can you tell me what happened on March 30th, 2025? And the computer just rattles everything off. It's almost like a god. It knows everything, the computer on the ship. Whereas we live in 2025 where we've got a stack of papers for our medical bills. Now, as they come in, I just started scanning them to have electronic copies. I'm still afraid of throwing them away, though. So that's why they're all in a big stack. But that is the federal government times millions more. They said in the interview that there's like a whole pallet just for one person's paperwork for retiring from being a federal worker. A whole pallet. A pallet is a 4x4 wooden pallet that you can stack high just for one person's retirement paperwork. That's nuts. And I can see why it's happened, because the government, like a business, they have their certain structure, they have their certain way of going about things, but the difference is a business tends to move to the market because they have to survive. The government just always is going to survive. So there is no sense of we gotta pass an audit, or we have to do things efficiently, or we need to get rid of those 700 different computer systems just in the one department and modernize and that sort of thing, because the federal government it's not compelled to do that. It doesn't have to do that. A business has to. If a business doesn't, they go out of business or they get weak, their stock goes down, someone buys them. A business has to be on top of it. The federal government just is. There's still going to be United States of America 35 years ago from now, hopefully. Even if it's bankrupt, it's still going to be there. So there's no sense of urgency really to fix it. Plus, the other problem is when you're elected, you only have so many years. So are you really going to take on, hey, I want to overhaul Social Security? Nobody wants to do that. That's just too messy. People are going to be too upset because of this and that. So they just steered clear. Now, finally, you have someone who's president who wants to fix it and has put people in place who are experts in their fields, know how to run businesses, know the technical as far as all the computers and systems issues. They're actually in place to try to fix it. And you would think people would applaud that.
Again, it's political sabotage. You just say the word Social Security, whether you're trying to fix it or eliminate waste or whatever. Oh, Trump's cutting Social Security. He wants to cut your retirement. It just comes back to that. And then you talked about the judges, like this Boasberg guy that wanted to turn around a plane in midair. Like you said, activist is the operative word there. Judges are there to be impartial, no matter who appoints them. Nothing could be a bigger joke. They are so biased. They're taking money. They're contributing money. Their family members contributing money, and it always swings left. The majority of them are left. So the biggest tool in the liberal toolbox are the federal judges. Is really the only tool they have to try and throw a cog in the works and what Trump is trying to do. So that it makes me so angry that it continues to be an attack on Trump, not what's going on. One of our viewers was talking about the tariffs. We had a discussion about the tariffs. He was clearly a Democrat, but we had a nice discussion, peaceful. It was a rare thing. And he actually thanked me and I thanked him. We actually had a discussion without name calling or berating each other, which I'm all for. I love those kind of discussions. And at the end of the day, you come to an agreement, or you don't come to an agreement. But
agree to disagree.
Exactly. But yeah, they're just trying to rip him down. And it's like 60 days, a little over 60, whatever it is, out of 4 years. And you give the guy a chance to get some traction and get this stuff done.
They don't want to give him a chance to get it done. That's the point.
Yeah. And maybe something happens with the tariffs, okay? I think reciprocal tariffs, I don't know how you can go wrong. I keep honking that horn for the reciprocal tariffs. But other tariffs, things might not work out. You got some people that are economists, and it's funny. It's always ex-politicians, right? Even Republicans criticizing the tariffs. That, other things might not work out, but the guy is putting in an honest effort to try to make this country better and eliminate that deficit or cut it way down and help the people of this country, no matter what it is, and then anything it is, tax cuts, oh, they're for the rich. Does anybody remember the first term? It was an across the board tax cut, like 20%. And now they're coming up on that again. That has got to get passed. In fact, that's one of the criticisms, because if those tax cuts, if the Democrats try and trip that up like they've been doing everything else, everybody's going to wake up on January 1, 2026, paying 20% more taxes. And there's a 20% business deduction too that's going to go away. That's going to hurt small business owners. And guess what's going to happen? The Democrats are going to be the first ones standing on their chairs going, look what he did. He raised your taxes. We told you he was going to raise your taxes. And the problem will be is those jackasses are the ones that put the cog in the works and won't let the thing go through Congress. They're always trying to get in the way. They should be fighting for what's right and what's good for this country instead of their hatred of the man consuming them. Like I said a million times, it's not because of the way he talks, not because of the way he acts. It's because he's a square peg in a round hole. He's not a typical business as usual politician, and they don't like that. They don't want to upset the apple cart, because we know Democrats are famous for it, but hey, there's Republicans that can be bought too. He can't be bought. Neither can Elon Musk, and that's what frustrates him so much. Who's to say if Vance or whoever got in there, they're not a billionaire? Who's to say that they couldn't be gotten to? We don't know what's on their mind. We like to think, oh, everybody's honest and nobody's going to take bribes from the Republican side or whatever. But to them, the caliphate, whoever's controlling the left, they can control the right too if the right takes this, if somebody decides to take the money. And that's what they want. They want that control. They want to be able to dictate how the country's run, what the country's spending money on, and what they're doing. So we talked a little bit about everybody getting their palms greased in our last video, but it just pisses me off to no end, because when are the American people going to realize that this sabotage and the breadth of the evil that these people are capable of doing? It's insane. And people just don't see it. 7% of people are LGBTQ, right? But they're always the ones that make the most noise. It's like being in a crowded classroom and everybody's being quiet. And you got the one kid that's just a troublemaker that is different from the other kids, but he's going to disrupt everything, by God. And he's sitting in that corner yelling at the top of his lungs, because these people are pretty much the ones that they're doing the violence, the torching Tesla dealerships and all these kinds of things. Have you seen the guys they're arresting? I hate to say it because I feel bad for them, to be honest. They're trans with blue hair or whatever, but clearly these people are mentally ill. They are. And so they think, oh, there's nothing. They don't understand the ramifications. Plus, they've gotten away with it for years, like the Summer of Love with all the riots there. They get away with it, and these people, oh, I'll just go out and do this. And then when they get caught, they're crying like babies. They don't understand that there are ramifications and there's a punishment that's going to be doled out for the things that they do. So they're nuts, man. They're crazy.
It does feel to me that we might be in for a violent summer, starting to warm up. We had all that happen in 2020. A lot of people riled up about things. I think it could possibly be bad this summer with protests, things burning down. But the only difference is back then you had the defund the police movement, and pretty much anybody who was for defund the police back from 2020, they've learned the lesson that was dumb. Actually, how could you ever vote for someone who wanted to defund the police, the people that protect your community?
Yeah. Well, so far, the Republicans, the conservatives are always the ones that they try to pull it back and not do it. But, eventually one or two things is going to happen. They're going to torch a Tesla or something, or do something stupid at a protest, and it's going to kill somebody. Or a guy that owns a Tesla and has a gun on him is going to see somebody destroying his Tesla, and they're just going to pull out a gun and cap the guy or girl or whoever it is. And then what are you going to do? or there's a kid sleeping in the back seat, or where these people are complete idiots. They're like children that don't realize that there's punishment involved and bad things can happen. They're totally unaccountable. And a lot of them are mentally ill. They just don't realize it. They just do stupid shit. They just listen to what the leaders are saying and they just run out and do it. Oh, who cares? I'm just going to go do this. Where are the leaders when they get arrested and they're getting drug away and now they're going to spend significant time in prison? They're not going to stand behind you.
Well, to be fair, there are people on the far right who you could categorize in the same way, overly emotionally invested in this stuff to the point where if you are a little bit off, you're gonna act on it. But it does tend to seem that it's usually more coming from the left. The left will never let you forget about January 6th. And that whole situation should never happen and it was wrong. But then when the left does their demonstrations or whatever, they'll say it was peaceful protests, and then you'll see the car in the back burning. I think we're going to see more of that this summer. I think we're going to see a lot. I think we're going to see rioting in the streets this summer. A very good chance. I hope not.
I'm hoping and praying it doesn't happen, but it's not a political matter. It's just people getting paid off. Like I said, Soros and these guys. You can tell by the way and they're investigating it. And I'm just hoping that these investigations go further and deeper, and they will. They'll get to the bottom of it. I keep mentioning the time frame. It's been such a short period of time. We got 4 years that they can look into these things. And even if they end up winning in the midterm, that's still 2 years, nearly 2 years left, or 18 months or whatever it is. So I'm hoping that they'll get to the bottom of all this with the investigation, and then heads are going to roll. But it's politics, regardless of Trump's a businessman or a politician. It's still politics. So who knows what kind of backdoor deals are being made and things like that. But it's frustrating that there were this many people that were that insane, that were angry and supportive of a regime that was clearly, if not communist, really socialist supporting and heading that way, taking our country down a deep, deep hole, and so hateful of a person. And you look back to that first term. Now you got to erase COVID because nobody knew what the hell to do with COVID. Trump went through it, and Biden was even worse dealing with COVID. But before that time, he had a good first term. They don't even want to give the guy a chance. They want to try and destroy him. But every time they do things and do something stupid where most of the country realizes what they're doing, except for that minority that they cater to, they're digging another shovel load of dirt. Trump, he's not anti-gay or anti-trans, but he believes in giving everybody a fair shake. That's why he's getting rid of DEI. Just ask Bissett. He's the Secretary of the Treasury now, the highest ranking gay man to ever take office or hold an administrative office, at least openly gay. And he's there for one reason. He's qualified. He's good. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, female, male, gay, trans, straight, whatever you are. If you're the best person to do the job, you're the person that should be performing the job.
Right. Well, I think we have to be very sensitive and aware of the bigger picture. Because just like yesterday or the day before, excuse me, I saw a person get on there and say about this poor person in Virginia or someplace that was a probationary person and they lost their job from the government, and how terrible that is. Nobody should be losing their job. Okay, well, number one, I don't want anybody to lose their job in any profession, but if you live long enough, almost everybody's lost a job one time or another in their life. Right. Or quit a job they didn't really want to, but felt like they should, even if you didn't lose your job. So, yes, it's not a good thing to go through. But meanwhile, it's not a good thing to go through that 10 years from now when I can get Social Security, there is none.
Right. It's going to be insolvent.
But Susie 10 years ago kept her job. Yeah. Okay, well, Susie doesn't have her Social Security 10 years from now either.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, you know, we're part of a
Back to Star Trek. Like Spock says, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few,
right.
or the one. And that doesn't mean that we want to be cruel about it, but actually, Elon said in that interview with Brett Baer, and again, people need to watch it. Everybody needs to tell everyone to watch that interview, whether you're for or against. It was so informational. And you may not agree with anything that they said, but you're understanding the logic of what they're doing. You can see why they're doing what they're doing. And I think most reasonable people would be like, yeah, that generally makes sense. We got to get these things cleaned up. People are stealing Social Security numbers because the Social Security system is so antiquated. They have more Social Security numbers out there than there are people alive. And
Yeah,
that doesn't mean every Social Security number is being used by a fraudster. It doesn't mean that, but it just shows that our government is very porous when it comes to protecting us. And DOGE is actually trying to put in protections. Why would you be against that?
I just saw another super intelligent post from someone on the left on Facebook that said, Elon Musk is lying. People that are 105 or 120 years old, dead people, are not collecting Social Security. No shit, Sherlock.
Obviously.
It's the people that are alive and the fraudsters that are doing it. So that's just their way of thinking. I mean, anything they can do to try and twist the truth, and it just sickens me. Well, we're running out of time here, guys. I do want to say one thing before we sign off. Where else, especially all you sci-fi buffs, can you watch people discussing politics and get legit expert references to both Star Trek and Star Wars? Right, Mark?
Yeah.
This is the expert. We got to get the science fiction going here. But happy April Fools. I hope you've pranked somebody. I love doing that kind of fun stuff, but I want to wish all a great day. And I want to thank everybody again for your support, the subscriptions, the likes, the shares, the comments, and just telling everybody via word of mouth. We're growing very quickly, and we're so happy that we decided to keep rolling with this after the election. And hopefully you're all enjoying what we're doing. We're always open to comments and suggestions. Mark, thank you so much. And until next time, everyone, stay the course, stay strong, and stay patriotic. Thank you so much for joining us on Red Rights and You. God bless you all, and God bless America. Take care, everyone.